All right, so our last video for this lesson is we're going to focus on the angle bisector. We have a couple examples here to look at. Part A, ray LM is the angle bisector of angle JLM. So when we look at our figure right here, we've got this bigger angle JLM. So J to L to N, that is a typo, you guys, that should say N. So if your packet says M, go ahead and cross that off. That should be an N. Sorry about that. So we have this larger angle, and we're told that ray LM is an angle bisector of that. So that means that the larger angle is getting cut into two congruent angles. So LM is an angle bisector, so I know that I'm going to have this angle congruent to this angle. Well, we can see that angle JLM is 26 degrees. So that means that angle MLN will also be 26 degrees because an angle bisector will give us two congruent angles. All right, so based on that information, let's see if we can answer the questions. It says find the measure of angle JLN. So JLN is the large angle. We can see it's made up of two smaller angles, a 26-degree angle and another 26-degree angle. So all we have to do is add together those 26s and we're going to get a 52-degree angle. All right, now we need to find the measure of angle MLN. So from MLN with L at our vertex, that is this smaller angle in here. We've already identified that's 26 degrees. We talked about that at the beginning when we knew we had an angle bisector and these two angles would be congruent. So we already know that's 26 degrees. All right, so we've got another example over here. We have angle, so same thing, LM right here is bisecting angle JLN. And if this large angle is being bisected, it's a little hard to tell. You know what? This picture's a little confusing. Here's how we're going to read this. This 150 degrees is going to be the whole angle. So angle JLN is 150, the big angle. Now, when we have an angle bisector LM, it's going to cut that large angle in half and give us two congruent angles. So all we have to do is take our 150 and divide it by 2, and we're going to have two 75-degree angles. So this angle is 75 degrees, and this angle is 75 degrees. And I can go ahead and mark those congruent. I'm going to use two congruency marks on each one. All right, now let's see if we have enough information to answer the question. Find the measure of angle JLM. So JLM, that's this angle right here. We just said is 75 degrees. And then the measure of angle MLN. So MLN was the other congruent angle, so that one is also 75 degrees. So when we see the vocab angle bisector, we need to think a big angle is getting bisected, which means cut in half evenly. So you get two congruent angles out of that. All right. Part B, ray BD, here's ray BD, bisects angle ABC. So here we have another angle bisector. So that means the large angle ABC is cut into two congruent angles. I'm going to go ahead and mark those two angles congruent. Find X. All right, so a common type of problem that we see in geometry is where we have to set up an equation based off of properties in vocab and solve for X. So what you want to ask yourself is, are things equal to each other because they're congruent, or will they add up to equal something bigger? In this case, we know that these two angles will add up to angle ABC. So if they told us that angle ABC was, I don't know, 100 degrees, then we could say this 20 degrees plus this 3x minus 7 equals the large angle. They didn't tell us what the large angle is, so we can't say an angle plus an angle equals the big angle. So what else can we say? We did mark these two angles as congruent. So when angles are congruent, that means that in an equation they would be equal to each other. So this 3x plus 7, minus 7 is going to equal that 20-degree angle. Because they are congruent angles, they have the same measure. So we can set their measurements equal to each other. Now we're just going to solve. We'll start by adding 7 to both sides. We love these nice little equations. 3x equals 27. Divide by 3 and x equals 9. Once we find x, you always want to go back and see if that's what they asked for, or do we need to do more? Like, are we done with the problem? So when it says find x and we found x, we are done. Oftentimes, though, it might say find the measure of angle ABD, or so where you might have to plug your answer back in to actually answer their question, but they asked for X and we found X, so we are good.